Hi, my name is Marilyn Fontaine. I'm a local artist from Newham. This project is close to my heart because my mum worked in Tate and Lyle from 1977 to 1998. And for me, seeing my mum hold down a family and work shifts, which are often very difficult, gave me a really strong work ethic. The women that worked there from the African Caribbean community and diaspora created a really strong community. It created, amazing memories in my mind, from the Christmas parties to the women meeting up at Rathbone Market or Green Street Market or Tesco's in Green Street. It just made me realise how it was important as a black woman now to not forget how the privilege that I've got because of the hard work that my mum and her peers carried out during those times where it was often quite hard being a black woman in East London in those days. And so with the endurance of having to go through so much, I have a sense of pride in completing this project and also listening to the stories of the other children whose parents worked in Tate and Lyle.
My name is Michelle Felician Antoine, or everyone call me Phil, or Phyllis that's the name I was usually in as general. And that's my name. My job in Tate and Lyle was like a packer, or manual packing, that's what it was called, yeah. And but being that I didn't have much problem getting jobs. I didn't have much problem getting jobs. So it was hard though. There's places you couldn't go, things you couldn't do. But like if you wanted to work in a office, or the jobs you do, but it would never be like you can get a higher job. It would always be the cleaning or the packing or the stuff like that. We very rare, but it was easy to get everywhere because in them days jobs was easy to get, but never anything. There was a lot of Caribbeans, a lot of Irish people, and a few white people that was there. I never had no problem with anyone. I always had good relation with whoever I work with, so it wasn't a problem to me. I wouldn't say there wasn't any problems. There was, but for me personally, I didn't have much problem. But there was difficulties at times, But I was happy there, to be honest. That's why I stayed so long. Working Tate and Lyle helped me because the earnings, and to be honest, in the area, it was the best earning. Then in the Christmas time, they used to give us theatre tickets for the kids and all sorts. It was a good place to work with. Home is Dominica. Well, that's as far as I remember because, I was born in Guadeloupe, but when my mum and dad decided they were coming here, they sent us to Dominica to stay with my grandparents. And then from there, I came to this country. So home was Dominica as far as I can remember. I raised my kids without no benefits, no anything. I work hard, overtime, and they see me working, and they left school and they work, and I'm very proud to say that they never went on benefits. They work, earning their keep and all grown up now. So, I'm happy for that. Well, I retired officially. I retired 2019. That was official, 2019. I was 65. Yeah. So I just missed out. Well, I got it because the retirement now is 66. So because of the time I was born, I got it at 65. So that was my official time to retire. But after I left Tate and Lyle, I went to work. I worked in the Barts Hospital for 18 months, and then I worked for Guy's Hospital for 3.5 years. And then I finish off the last 10 years before I retire in a school as a dinner lady.
You took retirement early?
No, I didn't take early retirement. They made us redundant. They closed our department, and then they made us redundant. So that's how I left Tate and Lyle.
Who looked after your children?
Oh, I was very lucky because my sister, she only used to live up the road, and we had a rota because when I actually first started to work in Tate, I was doing part time, 5 in the evening till 10 at night, and she used to work daytime. So she used to have the kids when she come home from work. I'd take them to her, but along the way, 5 years along, then they decided they were getting rid of the evening shift. So they said you can either make you redundant or you can go full time. My sister looked after them because I had her too when she started. While I wasn't working in the daytime, I had her too, and then in the evening she had my two. So that's how it went. That was a big hit. When my mother-in-law, she only lived around the corner, so if any I needed, and the sister-in-law as well. So I had a lot of people to help me. Childcare was easier than days if you have family around you,
Yes.
But like now, because I looked after my grandchildren when they came along to help because it was just expensive. Oh, Rathbone Market was booming. We had everything in Rathbone Market. Not only the market, but we had banks. We had the LEB shop. We had the gas shop. We had everything. We had restaurant. We had, and you name it. It was the market. It was Easter time. We used to have extra Good Friday big market. We really had we had everything in Cannington. As you can see now, we've got absolutely nothing now.
So it was the hub for a lot of the workers.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, when I used to, after I finished work, I used to go straight in the market. You had the butchers. We used to go in the butchers and get our little bits. And then there was the grocers. And actually, we used to have a grocers. And Frank Bruno used to buy his fruits and that whenever he come down, because he used to train. There's a pub there, and he used to train there, and he used to train. And then when he finished, he used to go there and he used to buy his fruits and he used to buy his vegetables to the people. Yeah, it was booming, but all of a sudden it just went down and everything disappeared.
My name is Mimi Newton and I am a community organiser in Custom House. My mum's name was Joan Blondell. My mum was one of the supervisors. My earliest memory has got to be when I was about 5 or 6 when she started to work there. And I remember she used to do 2 shifts, 6 to 2 and 2 to 10. And when she was on the early shift, I remember that when I used to wake up in the morning that she was never there. I had to get ready for school. And I used to be really upset. So when she'd leave us with somebody, like a cousin, to watch us, I remember she used to put the milk in the flask for us to have our cereal, and it had a really horrible smell to it. I didn't like it, but yeah, and I remember being really upset because she wasn't there to get me ready for school. Life was, for me, growing up in Newham, I remember we used to play out quite a lot with the children that lived in our block. There was two black families. My mum was one of them. And as the years went on, we used to live in some maisonettes. Another family joined, so there's only ended up being 3 families. And my mum lived in that same house until she passed away. But yeah, it was fun. We did experience some hard times, like most people did back then. But yeah, Newham was okay. It was very community spirited, and people kind of worked together and kind of looked out for each other. My mum had a really strong friend circle working in Tate and Lyle's, and I remember we called everybody auntie. That was her friends. It was out of respect as well. So she had some really close friends, and we used to go to their houses on weekends and stuff, and celebration times like Christmas and stuff. We'd see each other. But yeah, a lot of the children was older than me, but we still used to go to their homes and stuff, and yeah, so yeah. I remember I was quite young when those parties used to happen at Tate and Lyle's, but what sticks out for me is when we went for their open day, and you was able to go and look at the machinery and go inside and like go on some of the trucks and stuff that was there, and see the sugar being filtered and stuff. So yeah, that was always really exciting for me. Rathbone Market was the highlight of everybody's life back in those days. Especially my favourite time for Rathbone Market was always the Good Friday market. You could never get a bus down there because it was chock-a-block. Everything kind of came to a standstill because it was bank holiday. And we'd go to the market and all the stalls had come from all over London. It was a massive market. and everybody would go to the market and you could pick up your bargains, and then we'd be home just in time for church, because you had to go and kiss, we was Catholics, we had to go to church to kiss the foot of the cross, because it was the start of Easter. And it was a really big thing for us. That's where you got your Easter outfits as well, to wear for the Sunday as well. So you'd meet loads of people you hadn't seen for years. My mum would meet a lot of her Tate and Lyle friends in the market and stuff like that. But and you wasn't allowed to eat meat either. So there was always a hot dog stand to kind of tempt you, but you wasn't allowed to eat it. So there was always somebody to come and look after, especially for the late shift, 2 to 10. Someone would come over, spend some time with us. She didn't actually get to retire. My mum actually sadly died of cancer in 1990. Actually 91, I think it was, she passed away. And she was only 48, so she didn't actually get to retire. I think especially for the Black Caribbean and Afro-Caribbean community, they all kind of stuck together, because I've got some photographs of when my mum worked in Tate and Lyle, and it was always very much the black people kind of stuck with each other. And they would always celebrate like anniversaries and Christmases and stuff, so they'd always have a photographer coming, and the majority of the people in the picture were Black or Caribbean. And there was only a couple of Asian people that worked there at the time as well, from the photographs that I have. My mum, there was lots of Dominicans and St. Lucians and a few African people, and they was all very respectful of each other and got on really well. And there was always fiery stories about people fighting and arguing as well. The Dominicans stuck with the Dominicans, and the St. Lucians kind of ganged up with their lot, sort of thing. But they kind of inspired each other. They stuck together. They really did. There was a lot of job opportunities for people in Newham. It did. It impacted a lot of people. I think there's a lot of people that I knew, especially from around the area, especially when you talk to them, a lot of their families had somebody that worked in Tate and Lyle, was doing one of the roles in there. It provided a lot of job opportunities for people back in the day. So when my mum came to England, it was 18 years before she was able to afford to go back to Dominica and visit her family, which was really hard for her. And then after that time, she made sure she went back every 2 or 3 years, and she visited quite regular after that time. My mum was, from what I can remember, was very, very hard working. She never took time off of work. She'd always come in with an injury. She'd always have sprained her wrist on one of the machineries, or she'd be covered in sugar, or her shoes was covered in sugar. She'd always come home with sugar as well. I don't know how she got it, but she carried bags and bags of cubes, brown sugar, soft sugar. There was always some kind of sugar. In fact, the children in my block used to love coming to our house, because it was a big thing to give them a sugar cube. It was like sweets to us, so we'd give them. Or we was the first family in the block to have the sugar sachets as well. You were seen as living in the posh house if you had those back in the day. So, we used to use that. Yeah, so it was quite fun. But my mum was very hard working. I always knew her to work. She was always doing something. She made everything from scratch. She sewed and stuff like that. She baked. So I always saw her being very kind of proactive and doing stuff. So I've never not wanted to work myself. I've always been a grafter and made sure that I can provide for my family in the same way that she did.
So it was my dad, Christopher Harry Jobson, and also what I found out recently, my nan, which was Susanna Jobson, also worked at Tate and Lyle. So my dad, Chris Jobson, who also was known as Harry for short, some of his colleagues knew him as, was a foreman at Tate and Lyle. And my nan, Sue, she was on the production line. So Chris Jobson worked round about the mid-1970s onwards. He got ill health and unfortunately took early retirement due to him coming down with epilepsy, so he didn't actually make retirement age. So I think he was out of work from his late 50s, early 60s. For my dad, from what I can remember, because obviously I was quite a young child, he was very proud to say that he worked at Tate and Lyle. There was something around him doing his apprenticeship, obviously as a young black man, as a toolmaker engineer, and then being able to go and work in such a well-known and established company. There was definitely a social aspect. He did talk to me about the after-work drinks. Not sure whether they were legal or not. So some of the moonshine that was brought in, yeah, they weren't long hours, not always very well recognised and rewarded. But he loved what he did. He was very passionate and very proud, and he would always talk about that he'd worked there and his other roles that he'd taken on. But yeah, I think there was definitely a social aspect there. What I do remember from what he used to say, there was always a big black culture influence. Even though I don't believe it was recognised by the company itself, I do believe that they become a one unit family and did things socially regardless of whether the company knew or didn't know. I think for my dad, doing an apprenticeship as a young black man and going to actually go get a trade and then going into Tate and Lyle's established him to be able to do what I don't think at that time that they could see young black people being able to do. He got a career, and with that career it led to him being able to get a mortgage, get a house, be able to learn to drive, which we take for granted now, but back then being able to drive, own a car, own a home. And it then meant that my mum was a stay-at-home mum. She did work, but she was a seamstress at home. Meant that she could provide the childcare, and he was, which I know it's very different now, but he was the main provider because it gave a steady salary. And I think later on there was a bit more benefits that were available, and I just think it gave him the foundations to be able to provide me with a good start in life.
Who looked after you when your dad went to work?
So my mum, because obviously she worked from home, so I was able to be cared for her. And when she did work, she worked around school hours. So, and if not, then my nan, when she retired, was always available. So there wasn't, I didn't need to then go to other family members. It was just, within house with mum.
Because I find that a lot of people have said that they had a family member that was there to support them, because obviously a lot of them were women.
Yeah.
But they had a family member to support them, and they didn't have to go to any nurseries or anything like that. And it just shows you how it enabled a lot of these people to work.
Yes, definitely.
And contribute economically because of childcare, which doesn't really happen so much in the same way today. No. Like your dad's work ethic, how did that inspire you?
I think it just showed me the determination that he had from such a young age, that he was going to get an apprenticeship, which I don't think was readily available. I could be wrong, but I don't think was made readily available. My nan was obviously a single mum with obviously my aunt who is white and my dad, which is mixed race. So that was obviously culturally not seen as a done thing. So my dad, I think also, it gave him the fire to say, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to do something. And he went out there, he worked hard, he got his apprenticeship. And I think it led him, for me, to also learn from him that actually what you do, you have control of. So for me, I have the same ethics, whereas nothing's handed to you on a plate, you have to work for what you have. And I'm very proud that I come from a working class family, and so does my partner's family. And I hope I instill that in my two young children, that, it is hard, but and there is that fun aspect that I know that he had in Tate and Lyle and his other jobs. And the other interesting thing was also, my dad took a step back when he then became a professional boxer. So, and he boxed for our country. So there was aspects of that. And then he went back into what he'd learnt as his apprenticeship, into still going on what his go-to when he retired. So
My name's Edwina Lewis. My parents' name is Effie Lewis. Effie's job description was, I think, a tipper. My earliest memory of her working in Tate and Lyle was that she decided to go back to work after my young not my youngest, but after my brother was born in 1966. She was working in a cake factory in Chris Street, along Chris Street, and one of her colleagues was leaving to go and work in Tate and Lyle and told her there were lots of jobs that she should apply, and she did. The year I think she started working in Tate and Lyle would have been either 68 or 69, 1968 or 1969. When she was working, well, my dad was there, and my big brother was also there. But I was about 11, so I wasn't a baby, and I've got another brother that was older than me. So when she started in Tate and Lyle, she was in Thames. She used to sort of call it Thames, and that was part-time. She then moved on to the refinery further up, and that's when she started to do the shift work. The job itself wasn't difficult. She didn't say that the job itself was difficult, but she definitely encountered what she would call racism, as far as the jobs you did and what they wanted you to do. At one point, they wanted her to train people, but they wasn't willing to give her extra money. So she told them she wouldn't do it unless she was given extra money. I mean, she liked the fact that the pay was good. There was a lot of other women that were working there that were Caribbean, and there was a good banter. They used to give the workers quite a hefty Christmas bonus, and which the first year she started there, she'd only worked about 8 months, and she also got a bonus, which she thought was amazing. Yeah, and the children's Christmas parties were absolutely off the chart. They had everything there. I mean, up until that point, none of us had ever had a birthday party or Christmas party at home. So that was our first sort of children's big get-together for children. And they had clowns and they had magicians. And the presents were all the new stuff that were around that Christmas. It wasn't, cheap stuff. It was brilliant stuff. The food, how they managed to feed hundreds of children in that place, I still can't believe. It was so well put together. She took early retirement, but she stayed in the UK. She stayed here. It's 92. She was 59. I'm not sure why, but at that time, Tate and Lyle were actually offering early retirement to a lot of the staff. And she had made an application, but I don't think they had thought that so many people were going to go for it. So she put her name down in a timely fashion. But when it came for her to be retired, they then took the offer back. She had to fight again to get the offer reinstated. And she was always a member of, she joined the union when she started, so she was a member of the union, and the union had to get involved because, as they said, they had to honour it. She was actually born on a small island just outside Grenada, although Grenada was the governing country, called Carriacou. It was really nice because she met, there was quite a few of them, ladies that worked there. And, they had a partner hand. My mum was, the person that collected, because they really trusted her. She's the one that collected and stuff like that. And, she made a friend. I mean, she made friends for life. I mean, she died in 2016, but, New Year's Day is 2017. But, she was friends with, Barbara up until she died, and Eve. Eve lived in Custom House, Barbara lived Hermit Road. So most of the ladies lived in Newham. There was probably 3 or 4 that lived in Poplar. Alice lived in Limehouse. My mum lived in Poplar. I'm sure for her it was good times, really.
Hi, I hope you enjoyed the beautiful stories from these women speaking of their own experience or about their parents. What stood out for me is the memories of seeing my mum's friends and co-workers from Tate and Lyle gather together at social events. I saw a sense of pride in these women, who often had really difficult jobs and also had to hold down a family whilst they worked full time. My mum expressed how fun and enjoyable the social aspect of Tate and Lyle was, but she found work really hard and really difficult and had to retire with arthritis a lot more earlier than she wanted to. Even though she's enjoying her years now, I think she still benefits from the connections and the memories that she had in Tate and Lyle. And so I want you to, hold that in your mind, how a strong African Caribbean community held their families down and contributed to the local economy, and our parents came together to make the area and their own lives better.